Chloe Strawbrook.
Tēnā koe te mangai. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government's statements and actions?
Question number 3, I call the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Speaker, to the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government's statements and actions?
WhangareiTim.
Does he stand by all his government statements and actions?
Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government statements and actions?
Chloe Strawbrook.
To the Prime Minister, does he stand by all of his government's statements and actions?
Yes, and especially our action to deliver tax relief starting today. Governments of every stripe have delivered tax relief going back many, many years. National governments and Labor governments. Why? Well, I think as a member summed it up perfectly this morning when he actually said bracket adjustment is a legitimate thing to do, and I think it's a sensible thing to do. And I'd just say if he keeps saying sensible things like that, he could join the National Party and finally let Kieran McAnulty have his time in the sun. I'm proud that after 14 years, this government has done the sensible thing, the practical thing, the common sense thing, and actually delivered tax relief to working New Zealanders with the cost of living starting today. It is ironic, after 6 years, that member has the audacity to ask a question about the healthcare system that he presided over and ran into the ground. So I want to be really clear. There is way too many layers of management. There is 2,500 management, back office function people that are there. And there's a big division between the front line and the decision makers. Again, there has been financial unreliability in the reporting for some time. We are now fixing that. We're putting a commissioner in and putting the controls in place that member didn't do. What we've got is poor financial reporting. Why is that? It's because that government, the previous government, did not actually merge into one entity, the 21 DHBs, and just whacked 2,500 people over the top of it. And that speaks to the financial performance, the unreliability of the data, and the poor controls in place. It's because the previous administration had a botched restructure, didn't know how to run anything. We saw it with Tipu Kinga. We've seen it now with Health New Zealand. We've seen it with Disability Services. You don't know how, the previous government didn't know how to run things. We do know how to run things. We're sorting it out. We have worked and will continue to work on making sure we get workforce into the New Zealand healthcare system. We are growing our homegrown doctors. We have got open immigration settings to bring doctors from overseas here. We have made good progress. There are 2,900 extra nurses in the system than there was 12 months ago. We know it's challenging getting workforce into rural settings, but we'll continue to work hard at it. Again, I would just say it is very rich from that member who actually created the situation and now is criticising us for trying to solve the problem he had. We have put a record $16.7 billion into the healthcare system, much more than the previous administration was planning in your fiscal track documents at the election. This government's action to abolish the broken lending regulations associated with the CCCFA. We know that those regulations have been an absolute nightmare for Kiwis, having to explain to their bank why they've subscribed to Netflix or justifying how much money they're spending on cat food. So our government is serious about getting rid of the jungle of red tape. So good news from today, 11 pages have been shredded in regulations around the CCCFA. It means people will get access to liquidity and will also protect on predatory lending. I was so pleased to see reporting yesterday confirming that the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax has been fully passed on to motorists. The previous government didn't care about working New Zealanders, frankly, who were trying to drive to school or drop their kids off to school, and that's why they were so happy to soak them up with taxes to pay for speed bumps and cycleways. We axed the tax. We're getting government focused and back on the basics. The previous government's botched merger left Health New Zealand with broken governments and poor financial controls.
Well, what was that? Where'd that come from? Look, I'm sorry, it's not a playground, for goodness sake. Just keep your tittle-tattle to yourself. In the meantime, just everyone recognise that a question is asked in silence and doesn't require any commentary.
And just to give you a feel for it, if you're a patient, you interact with a team member. If a team member interacts with a team supervisor, who reports to a team leader, who reports to an assistant manager, then a manager, then a service manager. The service manager reports to the general manager reports to the group director of operations.
We'll just hear the rest in quiet. It's just ridiculous. Carry on, Prime Minister.
Well, as I was saying, the amazing thing with our health system that we inherited from the previous government is that a patient interacts with a team member. The team member reports to the team supervisor, who reports to the team leader. The team leader reports to the assistant manager. The assistant manager reports to the manager, who reports to the service manager, who then reports to the general manager. The general manager, you might be asking, who do they report to? Well, they report to the Group Director of Operations. And of course, they report to the Regional Director, the National Director, eventually the Chief of Staff, then the Chief Executive, and of course, they report to the Chair and the Board. The great news is that we are a government that is introducing tax relief for the first time in 14 years. We are lifting the tax thresholds so that people don't get caught in higher tax brackets that they don't need to be in. That means they've got more money so they can navigate the cost of living.
Speaker.
A point of order, Right Honourable Chris.
I asked the Prime Minister whether raising registration fees and expanding road user charges was raising or lowering the cost of living. I didn't ask him about tax cuts.
Well, the Prime Minister, I'm sure, might want to add to his comment so far.
No, I'm fine, actually.
Okay.
No good with that, no.
Well, that's a reasonable position.
He couldn't find any notes in his folder there for that one, Mr. Speaker.
No, hang on.
Oh, the ventriloquist's away today. That's right. Oh, there we go.
Comments like that don't help with order of the House and certainly don't help dispose the member asking the question or making the comment to the goodwill of the Speaker. Could you please carry on with your next supplementary?
Did that laser-like focus on bringing down the cost of living lead to charging children more for public transport, which some young families has resulted in some young families spending hundreds of dollars more per week just to send their children to school?
Yeah, and what I'd say is a large majority of New Zealanders don't use public transport, and some of them actually drive. And some of them really appreciate the removal of the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax, and some of them really appreciate the removal of the ute tax. But what they all certainly appreciate is tax relief for low and middle income workers, a group of people that the Labour Party used to care about but has lost its way. David Parker cares about them, but the Labour Party today doesn't. From tomorrow, 3.5 million individuals will keep more of what they earn. We are adjusting tax brackets and eligibility for the independent earner tax credit after years of inflation dragging Kiwis into higher and higher tax brackets. We're boosting working for families payments up by up to $50 a fortnight, and that comes on top of our other changes to support Kiwis with the cost of living crisis. Whether that's abolishing the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax or introducing family boosts to support families, the cost of childcare, we are putting the squeezed middle and low and middle income working New Zealanders at the heart of this government.
How is it fair that his tax cut package, which he keeps saying will benefit low and middle income earners, while analysis in fact shows 64% of the benefit goes to the top 40% of households, will see children and families struggling the most get nothing because they're on benefits?
94% of households across New Zealand are going to get tax relief. 83% of individuals in this country are going to get tax relief. What we have done is not ideologically difficult. Centre-left and centre-right governments do this all around the world of adjusting tax thresholds. That's why we would hope that the Greens and Labour would support this adjustment.
Is he saying that children deserve to live in poverty if their parents' income comes from benefits?
No, we're not saying that, but we are lifting tax thresholds so that families get to keep more of what they earn and support their own children.
Did he read the section of the Royal Commission into Abuse in Care report which says, quote, "Child protection is also an economic and political issue, rather than just the behaviour of individuals. Research shows a clear relationship between poverty and care system contact. And if so, why is he choosing to allow for more children to live in poverty under his government?"
I have read the report, and that's why this government is working incredibly hard to rebuild the economy, to lower the cost of inflation, to kill inflation, to lower the cost of living, so that actually we can make this country more prosperous. That's what it's about.